everyone, this is Melissa, and I'm the talkative introvert. All right, so for today's episode, it's going to be a little different from the other ones. So the other ones have a specific topic in hand, and then they require some research and note taking and a whole outline and all that stuff. But today, I'm just going to talk freely, and I'm just going to ask myself one question: why am I starting this podcast? So I know the first episode, I tried to do an introduction, but it was like a really short, I think it was only a 6 minute long podcast, and I didn't really do very well in making an introduction. So now that we're now at episode 5, I'm a little more comfortable doing the podcast. I'm a little more comfortable talking to myself and not just keeping the thoughts in my head, but actually like putting it into a mic and talking it out and getting used to using the software and like uploading stuff to Buzzsprout. I think I can probably do a better introduction or a better explanation as to why I'm doing this podcast. So that's what today is going to be. I didn't do an outline this time. I didn't do like any note. I don't have any notes or anything. I'm just going to talk freely and just basically ramble about why I'm doing a podcast. And I wanted to try out this way of doing it because the first one, it was completely scripted. So I wrote exactly what I was going to say, and then I read verbatim what I wrote, and that one was really frustrating because I kept either losing my spot, or it just wasn't. And it wasn't fun. It was like really stressful because I kept pausing and I kept deleting stuff, and they kept starting all over, and I will start a sentence over, but then I'll mess it up and I'll do it again. So this time I really wanted to try just talking and just letting my thoughts roam free, basically. And I don't know if I like this way of doing it, then maybe I'll do like random ramble episodes and just like ask myself one question and then just go from there and just keep going and talking until I think I'm good. So like right now I'm literally standing at my desk and like looking away from the monitor and just talking. I'm like pretending I'm talking to someone, which basically that's what podcasts are, right? It's people talking to an audience and they're talking to their listeners. And I'm assuming maybe there's a listener out there talking to me ramble right now, and maybe you'll like it. And if you do, awesome. Like that's great. Thanks for listening to me ramble. So we'll see how this goes. So we're in episode 5, like I said, so that's like a third of the way. So what I'm going to do seasons. I know there's like different ways people do their podcast. Some people literally just go every week or every 2 weeks or however it is, and they just keep going. They don't stop. They don't take breaks. But then there's some people who take breaks and do seasons. So I think for me, so that I can take a break and figure out what I'm doing, and because I'm still learning how to do this, I'm gonna take breaks in between seasons. So for the first season, I figured maybe 15 episodes is a good stopping point. That way I can reflect back on my previous episodes and then figure out like how to do better or like what I want to do for the next season. I don't know like if I'm going to do like themes for every season. I haven't gone that far. For right now, it's just going to be me talking. I don't have any people like in line to do interviews. Like I really want to interview some family members and some of my friends, but we haven't gotten there yet. So I'm still learning this. I'm still learning the software and learning how to even record. And I'm still like, I don't even have a very good microphone, and I hope that's not too evident, but it's not that great. But hopefully, like as I'm doing this, and the more I get into it, maybe I will invest in like better equipment later down the road. We'll see. It depends how expensive they are. So, but for now, so I want to do seasons. This first season, it's just going to be me rambling. I'm going to talk about different subjects and different topics. And then maybe in the next season, once I'm a little more comfortable, I can figure out the whole dual audio and like how to record other people, if we're going to do it through Zoom or if I'm going to have them come over. Like obviously right now we're in quarantine, and that's kind of slowly lifting. So by the time the second season comes around, maybe that's like fully lifted. I really don't know. I don't know where we're at right now. I know restaurants are opening up and I know people are like going out more, so we'll see. We'll see if there's like a second wave and we get quarantined again. Who knows? Um, and who knows by the time this episode goes live where we're at with the quarantine. So yeah, okay. So why do I want to do this podcast? So I've always wanted to do a podcast. I mentioned that in my first episode. I've always wanted to do a podcast because like one, I love podcasts. I don't listen to a whole lot, but I listen to podcasts frequently. So that I'll make that another episode, like talk about my favorite podcast. And I also just really like talking. But the problem with me talking, like I love to talk and I have a lot of ideas. Like in my introvert types episode, I talk about that I'm a thinking introvert. So I'm always in my head. I'm always imagining scenarios in my head and like I wanted to be a writer at one point and write a book and like really put my thoughts onto paper, but I never did that. But then I thought a podcast would be great because I have a lot to say, but I don't get to always say it. So I'm very soft spoken and I'm very quiet. You obviously can't tell because with a podcast, you know, you can amplify your voice so you're not so quiet. But when I'm around like friends and family, I tend to get lost in the background and I know a lot of that is because I'm very soft spoken, but also because I'm just not like loud and boisterous and I don't seek attention either. Like I don't like being center of attention. And so that kind of hinders me from being able to like speak out and like sometimes be a part of the conversation or sometimes like get my point across. And like people I talk to tend to talk over me and I don't know why that happens, but it happens to me a lot. And I'm assuming that's because I'm soft spoken and because I'm not loud, but I don't know. People just they do that to me a lot and sometimes sometimes I have like a lot to say about a certain subject, but by the time I can like put a word in, we're already up off to another topic. So having this podcast, I can decide like what topics I want to talk about, stuff that are like interesting to me that I want to talk about that I want to share with other people, but I don't get a chance to. And I don't know, and that could be part of the introvert nature, and which is like a big topic in my podcast. I mean, I'm called the talkative introvert. Um, so that explains like why I went for that title because I am an introvert and I highly, highly, highly resonate with being an introvert. And everyone who knows me knows I'm an introvert, and it's just a big part of my personality. And um, I wanted to talk about that because I thought that's an interesting topic because people don't tend to see introverts in a positive way. And I don't know. I wanted to start this podcast and talk about that. I wanted to talk about like how we get discarded. I don't know if that's the right word, discarded. But we kind of get pushed to the background, you know, like employers don't seek out introverts unless it's like a type of job where like it's expected you're going to be alone. Then obviously like an introvert's probably preferable because then they won't be super miserable in that type of job. But typically people like to see outgoing on your resume and like works well with others, enjoys working in in a group or in a team and all that stuff. And I'm not saying I don't like group work. It's just that it's just become socially exhausting. So it makes me really tired at the end of the day. Um, so yeah, so I wanted to start this podcast to kind of talk about introverts. I think that's what season 1 is mostly about, is just like different topics about introverts. Kind of talking about the misconceptions, I can never say that word, misconceptions, like I already did the pet peeves episode, and just really, really explain like why introverts are the way they are, and also like giving that message that it's okay that you're an introvert too. Like, I have no qualms with being an introvert. Like, I am happy with who I am. I accept that I am an introvert. I used to hate it. I used to think that it's like man, I wish I was more outgoing, or man, I wish I was more like my cousin, who's like friends with everyone and super outgoing, and everyone loves her, and she's like this amazing ray of sunshine. But then, as I got older, I was like, no, like there's some good into being an introvert. Like, I don't like drama and conflict, and that tends to happen in larger groups of people, like larger groups of friends, because there's more chances of that happening because there's more people involved in your group. And I'm glad that I only have a small group of friends. And I'm glad, so there's some positives of being an introvert. And I wanted to um, send that message out. Like, it's not that bad. Like, it's not bad at all, really. And so that's kind of what season 1's going to be. Obviously, as I'm doing this podcast, I may just run out of topics to talk about for introverts, because it's just a limited topic. It's not like doing a show review where there's even a show review, eventually that show is going to end and be canceled. Then you have to go on to the next topic. So I will probably talk about introverts as much as I can, and topics around that subject. But every once in a while, I do want to talk about other stuff, like other topics. So as I'm progressing and as I'm adding more podcasts and more episodes out, I do want to change up the topics, not just talk about being an introvert. Because there's definitely a lot of topics out there that I always want to talk about, and I feel like I have a lot to talk about, but I don't get to, like I said earlier. I don't know why, but I always tend to go in the background, and I don't tend to be like the one everyone listens to intently and loves listening. Or that's a horrible way. That's a bad thing to say about a podcast host. But people just don't, I don't know, they don't acknowledge me when I talk, and I don't know if that's just my personality, or maybe the way I talk, maybe I need to be louder. I really don't know why that happens. But with the podcast, I can speak freely, regardless if I have a bunch of listeners or not. So that's what I was saying. Even if I don't get a whole bunch of listeners, even if there's only 10 of you out there, this is still a fun hobby, and it's a good outlet. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And I know I don't even have listeners because I'm not even live yet. But it's still, I don't know. It's fun. It's still fun to do, because it's nice to have these thoughts out there and shared, I guess. But yeah, so there's other topics I want to get into. I don't want to just only do introverts, because there's only so much you can talk about it. But I do want to interview people. I want to interview family and friends, and then I don't know how far, or how who this is going to reach, who my podcast will reach, and if it reaches other podcasters, that would be cool to get them on here. I don't know. I think I'm thinking too far ahead for that, because who knows, I might not even get any listeners. So basically, long story short, I wanted to do this because I want to voice my thoughts and not let it get stuck in the background. And being able to do so has been a really great outlet. This has been really fun and enjoyable, and I look forward to doing it. on my free time. Like, it's been really great, honestly, and it's a great hobby to add to my other hobbies. And I hope I can be able to do this long term. Like, it doesn't cost a lot to do it, so it's definitely a cheaper hobby than my other hobbies. But that'll be another episode. The type of introvert hobbies, if you will, because all my hobbies are introvert. It doesn't require other people. Anyways, so I hope this is a better introduction, and I hope it better clarifies why I actually wanted to do it. I keep thinking back to that intro episode, and it was just so short. It didn't really broadcast like why I'm doing this and the whole point of this podcast. And I really hope you like listening to it. And if you do, I am on social media. I'm on basically all the platforms except for Twitter. I don't like Twitter, to be honest. I've never used it. I had it like back when it first started. But I only used it so I knew like when my shows had new episodes and like when to watch it and what channel to watch them on. So I don't know if I'll go on to Twitter, but I'm on at least Facebook, Instagram. I have my email in the description too. It'd be great if there are any listeners out there, even if it's just like a tiny, tiny bunch of you. Like, let's start a conversation and let me know what you want. What do you want me to talk about? Like, what topics do you want to hear? Are you enjoying it so far? What do you not like? I know I have like a very nasally voice and I sniffle a lot, but that's because I have really bad seasonal allergies and it's springtime right now. Well, I guess it's basically summer. I don't know. It's like reaching the hundreds this week, so that's basically summer now. Anyways, again, if you like this, follow me on social media. I'll link it in the description, and hopefully, you'll like my future episodes and stick around. So I will talk to you in the next episode. Thanks.